Today, me and Ramani are here to present you all on accelerating time to market by product-led growth thinking. We'll give you a brief introduction of ourselves. Though my name looks really longer there, you can all call me Madhu. I'm a product strategist at Thoughtworks. I've been with Thoughtworks for a little over 5 years now, and it's been a long journey, but a very exciting journey. I belong to the customer experience and product design service line. My primary responsibilities here include advising and leading engagements on strategy and product transformation. Other than this, I think off work, I love exploring different music formats. So that's what really keeps me busy off work. So with that, I'll also maybe let Ramani introduce himself to all of you.
Thanks, Madhu. Hi, folks. So my name is Ramani, and I've been in the product space for close to 15 years. I've been in Thoughtworks for the last 5 years. It's very similar to Madhu, like helping the enterprises devising their product strategy and the product roadmap. I've been more of a startup person, worked in multiple startup ideas along with founders, taking the idea to market. In my free time, I enjoy spending time with early stage startup founders, mentoring them. I've been an active person in incubators and accelerators. Yeah, free time. Yeah, I love human emotions. Like Alexander was saying, I also want to understand the deeper human emotions and apply it in the product. At some point of time, become a product psychologist. Cool, then let's go to the crux of today's talk. Madhu, over to you.
Thank you, Ramani. Very interesting product psychologist. Wow. All right. Okay, so what do we have for us today? Let us talk about customer expectations today and what's been the business response to it, right? So how have we been evolving with changing customer expectations? We'll spend a little time on that. Then we'll introduce you to what is product-led growth all about. Looks like a fancy term, but then let's just decipher it. We'll spend some time understanding the principles and building blocks of product-led growth. We will focus on how did we really implement product-led growth strategy, right? So we'll talk through some of our stories, some of our experiences with different or in different engagements. And we'll definitely leave you with some key takeaways. That's it. Let's jump into the conversation, right? So today, if you look at how customer expectations are changing, on the left, what I have here is the Gartner's customer experience pyramid. I'm sure a lot of you would have, seen this way before as well. And on the right is how businesses are really responding to customer expectations, right? So in 1990s, I would say customers were really looking forward to have their basic needs really met, right? And just a second here. Do you see my slide? I see a technical glitch. All right, sorry, yeah. So back in 1990s, customers were really looking for their basic digital, basic needs met, and businesses responded back with, basic digital solutions, right? For where customers can really furnish the right information at the right time. As we progress further, in 2000, customers really said, what if basic needs are met? How about my emotional needs, right? Let's talk about them. And businesses went back very strong with customer success teams, 24/7 support, very strong, management in terms of being able to be there for the customers at every point in time. Fantastic. Customers' needs further evolved. Customers said, hey, I wouldn't like to ask what I need. You are in a better position to anticipate and tell me what I would really need. And so businesses in 2010 came back with multiple services. You're paying, okay, you're recharging your bill here today. Wait, you could also make your credit card payments here. You could also do X, Y, Z, right? And so businesses responded back with multiple services that they can offer to the customers. Now, this is the era today where we believe that customers are really looking for a much safer environment, are looking for making them much more powerful. They are looking for being able to redefine their customer experiences using products. Now, in such a situation, how do we really respond, right? How should businesses really respond to this situation? How should they really bring in products which bring in that redefined customer experience? Is product alone enough? Is tech alone enough? Is design alone enough? May not be, right? What else is really needed? How do we make them more, how do we take these products and really allow them to use it more consistently, right? That's the crux of our conversation today. So I'm going to lead you into one of the most powerful stories I'm sure all of you would have heard in the recent past, right? And this is the story of Zoom. We are all there, right on Zoom, using it. So I'm sure each one of us would have experienced how Zoom has or is there since it started off, right? Zoom was created back in 2011. It has about 300 million users today, despite heavy competition like Microsoft, Cisco's, Polycams in the market, right? And they have IPO'd in 2019, valuating at about $15.8 billion. 328 million was your latest quarterly revenue that I have noted off. Now, it got me really exciting to really understand what is the guiding strategy behind this growth, right? How did they all do this? Now, deciphering that, we went into to note some observations, right? What did they really do? They came into the market with a very powerful freemium version of the product, which has allowed users to experience value. Second, think about how you have just signed into Zoom, right? It's just with your name. It's absolutely frictionless. You haven't gone through any trainings, demos to really understand what Zoom is all about. It's absolutely frictionless. Third, how did you get to hear Zoom? It was all word of mouth distribution. No specific sales campaigns, marketing campaigns around this. Fourth, they have maintained the trust of customers by being very transparent about their paywall features, which is about extended call time or recording capabilities, right? Now, they have solved a problem in a very unique way, and they made customers really feel empowered. They let the customers make those decisions on whether they would like to use this product or not. And if we have to give all of this strategy a name, what would you say? What would be the name that you would like to give this strategy about, right? That's nothing but product-led growth. How did your product lead into acquiring 300 million users? How did they rely on product as a channel to really create such a big market? That's the crux of our conversation again today. Zoom was one of the pioneers of product-led growth model. So let us look into to understand what product-led growth is about in a more detailed fashion. Product-led growth is nothing but a go-to-market methodology that relies on using your product as a vehicle to acquire, activate, and retain customers, creating that company-wide culture to lead with product. I'll take a second to let you digest this definition, right? It is all about leading with product. What do you mean by leading with product in an organization, right? While every business is really targeting end users, PLG is an end user focused strategy, which allows you to really think beyond the problem solution fit. It is actually allowing the user, it is actually allowing the organization to think from an end-to-end user experience standpoint, right? Right from creating awareness to allowing for the advocacy of using this product. Now, how every part of the organization does leverage the product. What we are trying to intend here is marketing part of the organization leverages product as a lead magnet, which means product is the one which actually brings in more and more leads into the business. Sales leverages product to qualify those leads and use it for activation. Customer success teams rely on the product and they are more consulting coaches. They look towards expansion of the product and relationship building more than just kind of answering any kind of support calls or more than resolving those tactical solutions, right? Your product is doing already all of it. Fourth, the engineering and design teams really ask how we could build that faster time to value. You would have seen a number of features in Zoom, which really talk about, I could wear a cap if you want me to right away in Zoom. There's so many delighters in the product. There's so many exciting features in the product. And what does it mean? In a fraction of days, in fraction of hours, you would see a number of features moving in and out into the product. And what has led Zoom do all of this? This is all the power of technology behind the scenes, right? With that little introduction on Zoom and what product-led growth is about, I'm going to take you into to very crisply contrast what product-led growth is and what it is not. Product-led growth is end-user focused. It is not executive focused. It is not a VP, CIO, CTO making a decision on what product a business should really use, but then it is the actual users who are using the product who would make a decision. Think about how you would have used a Mural, a Miro, a Zoom in your organization, right? Of late, with pandemic times, I'm sure a number of collaboration tools that have come into play have all approached with product-led mindset. Second, the channel here is product. It is not marketing or sales driven. The focus for product-led is on delivering value to the customer. Think about that 40 minutes call that Zoom has started off with, right? It allowed us to experience value. It's no more about convincing users on demos, no. The influence is bottoms up. The buyers, the customers are making those decisions. Think about you as an end user. If you are looking at downloading an end user customer application, you would like to function very similarly in the business environment as well. You would not be interested in listening into how the product has to be used. Rather, you would like to experience it upfront. So it is bottoms up and not top down. The sales method is end-to-end value and experience driven. It is not process driven, filling in forms, not discovery driven, right? It is more value and experience driven. The support model is automated onboarding and community. Community drives the product. You have more and more users experience it, they talk for it. And the customer success teams, it is not about the customer success teams anymore helping users with the product. So with that said, I would also like to call on and show you how importantly product-led companies are really driving growth in the market today, right? A lot of these names are very familiar to you: Datadog, Slack, Fastly, Zoom. I'm sure you would have heard all of these names. In the last 10 plus years, if you look at all these product-led growth companies have created about more than $208 billion worth market value. And this is extreme. And these aren't alone, by the way. These are all ones which have gone public, be it in the developer category, be it in the back office operations, Dropbox, LinkedIn, Postman's, GitHubs, I'm sure Lucidcharts, Calendly, all of these hundreds of companies are adopting product-led thinking. And hence, we believe that product-led growth is the future and is the future of software development. With that, I'd like to leave you to delve deep into the principles of product-led growth while Ramani walks us to that in a second.
Thanks, Madhu. I think I'm already Zoomified and my kid, who is just 7 years old, has a frictionless onboarding. I don't need to give any training. I think most of us in the pandemic If the kids can actually frictionlessly onboard, that tells that the approach from the customer experience perspective. Cool. So what we have learned is the concept of product-led growth. But if you are a product leader wanting to put this into force, put into action, right? You need to have these key tenets and the key principles. Because in my journey as a product manager, right, if there is a conflict, and especially if you are a product leader, you have to handle a lot of conflicts. You need to have these key principles to decide on which part of the conflict you have to stay. So we kind of basis our experience, we came up with these 3 principles which we have applied in our day-to-day role as product managers. Principle number 1, customer's purpose defines the product. And it's not, as Madhu said, right? The executive's purpose does not define the product. As the name suggests, it's product-led, and the word product and customer is very synonymous here. You can replace the word product with customer and still call it as a customer-led growth strategy also. So no team is superior here. The product is actually solving the customer purpose. So everyone rallies around in solving that problem. And one of the example comes to my mind is Amazon, which calls this as a customer obsession, which means each and every member of the org is obsessed with the customer, be it the delivery person or the product manager, or even the person who is hiring people to the organization. So everyone should have that obsession in their blood, actually. Principle number 2, allow users to experience value. What is value here, right? Traditionally, in a marketing-led approach, I think most of us would have known IDA model. To give more details into that, is IDA is an expansion of that is awareness, interest, desire, and action. So this is a more linear way in their purchase life cycle. But if you look at the way product-led approach solves this, right? It is very, very non-linear, and all these things happens at the same time, cohesively. Like customer goes in, awareness gets into their brains, and then they also make sure that they take that action in one go. So this is a very non-linear way of giving value to the customer and not taking too much time. This we call as frictionless discoverability and user experience in the overall acquisition mode. How is this possible? Most of these products use freemium models. If it is a B2B, it is trials. These are the techniques we use to make sure that we were able to use the product and experience the value for the users. So value becomes a very strongest proposition, which your customer cannot say no. Products like Atlassian, HubSpot, there's a few examples who have used this methodology traditionally in a different model and moved to more of a product-led. That is what they have done. The third principle is how you can grow non-linear and still make sure that you have a lesser operational cost. I think in my experience, especially worked in startups, I could reach to a problem solution fit using experimentation or even a product market fit in certain products I've worked. But the real challenge, I think, in the next decade, we as product leaders and designers are going to face is how do we optimally scale, because the competition is so heavy. And this is possible only by using technology as your foundational pillar. You can move from one geography to another geography and tweaking the product. Netflix is one example which comes to mind, where if you want to watch a movie, I think they can launch it in 150 plus countries in a go, and which brings that the operational cost reduction, and they were able to do it very non-linearly. So how do we summarize these 3 principles? I think Peter Drucker has coined this term long back. Aim of the marketing is to know and understand the customer so well, the product has to sell by itself. The statement is still true. I think Drucker is not alive today, but if he is alive today, he will surely vouch for this, replacing the keyword marketing to product led, how the era has changed more than pushing the product rather than the customers are actually advocating the product. Now let's go deep. Realistically in our life, right, both me and Madhu, how we have implemented this in our product stints. We are going to see 4 stories, 2 from my side and 2 from Madhu, on how we have implemented these in our real product world. So we call this as a building blocks. So there are 4 building blocks. So experience, product, data, and technology. We have kind of slice dicing it for you to understand this into more detail, such that when you go back to your product stints, you will be able to apply these principles much more stronger. So one is experience. We have talked detail about it, frictionless. Second is the product, because product here is the channel which is delivering value, and you need to make sure that you build the right capabilities. And we don't call this as a features. You need capabilities for the users to navigate around. The third block we are going to talk in detail is the engagement of data and how you can devise experiments over it. And the last one is technology. Today, infrastructure plays a key role. I think all of us are in this call. It's because of the infrastructure the Zoom has, and how, as we scale, we are more towards progression and not too much worried about the perfection. So let's go to the story one. So this is in a stint where I was acting as a product consultant, and the business is more into entertainment and the cinema business. And they have two problems. One is from a customer perspective. Customers have to order food by standing in the queues, and it resulted in very negative experience, right? And business, being a cinema business, right, you were number of users walking into the cinema hall is limited because the inventory is limited, and they were wanting to identify newer opportunities, digital revenue opportunities. Putting these two problem statements in my head, right, I was thinking like, okay, they already have a mobile app, so let's leverage the mobile app to define a digital ordering experience to solve this problem. But what has happened is, over a period of experiments we did, we were still not able to understand why customers are not adopting the product. That's where I kind of applied these four building blocks. Number one is experience. We identified the signature moments on which the customers are facing that friction. Number two is data. We had a rich 5-year data of point of sale and what is that customers are actually ordering. In the queue, what is the frustration they are facing? One example, one intelligent insight comes to my mind is, right, we were able to abstract and tell that customers who are watching an action movie, let's say like an Avengers, end up ordering spicy food. Customers who are watching a romantic movie end up ordering less spicy food, let's say a cold coffee or a cool drink. So these insights told us their purchase behavior in the context of a cinema hall, how they are behaving. Like they may go to a Domino's, they may go to a Pizza Hut, they behave differently. And these key insights helped us to define what is the problem statement very clearly. And that made us to move from a mobile app experience to a different experience. I'll talk detail in the next slide. And obviously, being a very boutique and niche operator in the country they were operating, right? They are making sure that whatever investment they put for this has to reap benefits in different business units. So we kind of lean towards a self-served platform. The operations teams, marketing teams can actually create their own catalogs, menus for ordering food. So when these principles are put into practice, what are the learnings we had? So one is users were having this cognitive overload because of the rich menu we had. So we applied human psychology principles to hook them, and we identified that we have to simplify this. And the second one, as I said, right, rich data insights helped us identify the need for a behavioral change from a mobile app experience to a kiosk experience, because consumers were more coming to this, though they have a mobile phone, they wanted the social experience of standing in a lobby, experiencing the lobby, talking to their friends, talking to their families, and still ordering the food. That is the key insight we kind of arrived by running multiple experiments, and we landed into a different product, which is the kiosk. Here we allowed users to experience value very faster by free trials and in the pilot launch. All this is possible, as I said, is because of the self-serve platform capability we had. So for any product-led approach you put into principle, you need to measure it. And some of the outcomes we are able to achieve is the customer adoption rate. People who are in the point of sale migrated to the kiosk, and the conversion rate improved by 10%. And obviously the operational efficiency also reduced. So the summary here is, if you apply empathy and the psychological principles I talked about, it leads to better experience. And in the long run, you get more profits, more margins. Look at any company which is trading in the stock market where has a higher EBITDA. It's all because they were able to apply the empathy lens at the right time. Moving on to the next story. So this is in the context of a Southeast Asia market where the client had the business which has a wide network of low income users, and they were able to sell their products only in their neighborhood. And the business is not able to sustain this, and they're not able to scale. They were able to operate in 2-3 different geographies, depending upon the field sales force. On the other side, the consumers were facing a problem, like they were able to attract people only from their neighborhood. This is more like a network model business where you refer people in your neighborhood, and in that way, like you sell products to your neighborhood itself. So this is leading to more from a user perspective and also from a business perspective, how to scale the business, right? Using the field sales model. When we applied these 4 principles, again, 4 blocks there, first thing we found out by applying the human lens there, in a network business, the key part is how one person in the network influences another person, rather than just being very transactionally selling products. So we understood that social influence is key for network to thrive. Then come the next problem in the overall journey, right? So more people came into the network, but there is a competition in the network. Like, how do I make sure that I rate and promote one influencer who has put the hard work? So we used algorithms, which was very neutral and ranking the right influences in their overall journey of attracting the talent in their neighborhood. This gave a key insight. What is the product capability we need to build? The whole product is revolved around how to create the network strength. And that is the social concept we built. All this is possible only because they are a very densely populated country. At the same time, the total addressable market is so huge, which means you need to build services to attract the multiple opportunities you have. So use the underlying super app capabilities to make sure that we have the architecture is also ready for making sure serve the total addressable market we have. So what are the learnings here in this story? If you look at these 2 figures, one is a scale-free network, the other one is the small world network. In a traditional sales model, we use the scale-free network where a salesperson go and acquire a customer. And in case if the salesperson is out of the organization, whatever you have acquired in that particular node drops down. Whereas in a small world network, the nodes are very closely tied because it's not depending upon one person. Even if one person goes away from the network, the community will make sure that it is very sustainable. So that brings a lot of loyalty. In turn, as an outcome, it increases your customer lifetime value also. So this is not a traditional social product we build like an Instagram or a Facebook. This is a business social product, I would say, where we also made sure this is a bread and butter for most of the customers who are part of it, as the influence who are part of it. So we made sure we had these referral mechanisms and incentivizing the users in the network at the right time, such that we have the balance of the emotion, which is the community, and also rewards with the monetary referral mechanisms we had. These 2 combinations transform the business. And the summary I want to tell to you all is small networks can create a long-lasting relationship with a lot of sustainable growth. With this, I hand over to Madhu for the rest of the stories.
Thank you, Ramani. Thank you for those powerful, impactful stories on applying product-led growth. I will also walk you through some of my experiences in applying this back in my engagement. So this is a story about an e-commerce. This is a story about a product in the e-commerce space. So this is a marketplace kind of an environment where a business is really looking at building a service manager. Okay, and in here, this is about enabling other businesses who would want to kind of sell products on the platform to be able to run those marketing and sales campaigns. Now, they have built this product for more than 1.5 years. They build and build this product, but then they fail to drive product activation and growth. Now, how did we really turn the game here, right? How did we apply the product-led growth lens here? One, from an experience standpoint, we understood that there is a lot of onboarding time that the customers really spend in being able to be onboarded onto the product and run these campaigns on the product. So the first area of focus for us was to make it really frictionless, absolutely zero friction. Two, we said users did not have an idea of how do we even run campaigns in this kind of an environment. So we said freemium model is our way to go. Three is rapid experimentation. We'll talk about rapid experimentation in a second, but four is technology, where we've heavily focused on how we could really be building those business capabilities which will allow us to go faster. How will we leverage that technology advantage to build in those sensible defaults into the platform which will allow us to go faster? Now, how did we apply this? For frictionless onboarding, this is a mindset shift that we had to bring in the organization, right? Typically, the sales folks would have actually sent out a drip campaign, or they would have cold called the customer, figured out how and why the customer is not really using the product, or encourage them to go ahead, run these campaigns. But it was hard to convince these folks to bring in that mindset of being able to build self-serve product capabilities, which would allow the users to automatically adopt the product, right? So that meant baking in a number of self-serve videos, which would actually let the users automate a lot of their onboarding process and be able to use the product in a much more seamless fashion. Second, to be able to build that right optimization overall into the booking process for being able to create those campaigns, or to be also able to allow users to know how to leverage the capabilities in the system, we had to run rapid experimentation. And again, this is the second mindset shift that we had to bring in. One part is the outward focus, right? The sales, marketing folks, all of them adopting this. The second part is internally within the development teams to say, hey, it's okay. It's okay to kind of say, throw away something that we have built. This is not working, right? Look at the experiment scorecard that we have on the right? So we've had different insights. We've conceptualized or arrived at different hypotheses and designed experiments, and we constantly measured and looked at the results. Now, in about 6 months plus, we've ran about 16 experiments. Only 3 of these have actually yielded us positive outcomes, which is significant, right? But 9 experiments were negative. 3 of them remain neutral. Now, look at or imagine the amount of code probably we had to really throw away, right? We've, of course, reused a lot of it, but then we also had to throw away a lot of it. That's the second mindset shift within the teams. The third is experiencing value for free. So we have looked at allowing the users to book a service end to end. Fourth, like I spoke about, the adoption approach or the API first approach to build in the business capabilities. As a result of all of this, customer activation has increased by 7x times the bookings have really increased. Second, in about 3 months or so, in the way partners leverage these services, 14,000 plus articles were sold on the platform. The deepest insight we would like to leave you on the story is experimentation is the key to get you closer to the customers. I'll jump into the fourth story very quickly. Unable to innovate and scale as our technology is brittle. This is one of the most common challenges I'm sure each one of you would have heard. Now, what did it mean? This is a healthcare business, and it was about building that health experience portal with the intent of becoming round-the-clock buddy. Now, I'm sure a lot of you would have also experienced how resistant the doctors and the practitioners are in terms of, e-recording this information, right? Electronic medical records is still in progress. I don't think the trends have picked up there as much yet, right? Now, it was a huge, huge adoption challenge to let this product go into the market. How did we apply product-led growth thinking here? Huge hospitals have larger processes in place. They are heavily process-led. And to really make it very easy for the users to adopt, our key focus area in the experience space was no frill approach. Really keep it simple. We will just, for the adoption purpose, let's really go with the first basic version that is really needed, right? We will keep it very simple in terms of onboarding. Second, self-serve capabilities. No doctors, no nurses would be interested to sit in to understand how to really use the system, right? So our strategy was to focus on building those onboarding capabilities. 3, heavy customer obsession. Really look at where the customers are really struggling in their journey in terms of being able to use the product. 4th is, of course, the platform first approach. Now, how did we really apply free demos and trainings to guided videos on feature usage, right? That is where we were really intentional about onboarding. A lot of times strategy guides features. This is the mindset I have worked probably 5 years ago. But then really being intentional about how do I even let the users onboard so seamlessly, right? From thinking about it from end to end is this shift in mindset that at least I have experienced applying product-led growth thinking. Personalized experiences. A technical assistant fills in the information very differently than a practitioner. So how do you contextualize your feature to be able to be adapted by a practitioner and a technical assistant very differently, right? Third, brought in a lot of templates into place, templatization in the process to really allow the users to act more than think, right? And fourth, of course, was to say, how do we focus on bringing in democratization of innovation? With all that said, the key outcome here is we were able to really scale the product to about 5 countries with 9 projects, 46 centers, reaching to about 90,000 patients. And that's been the impact of scale, which is very satisfying and very, very promising. To all the product leaders out there, I think what we would like to, probably close this conversation with is to say, hey, product-led growth is not rocket science. It needs really an ability to understand 2 things primarily, right? One is a mindset shift within your organization. This means being able to create that growth culture, focus on progression over perfection, build in that experimentation culture, and empower your community. Democratization of innovation is extremely important. Growth opportunities can arise from everywhere. Second, alignment in the organization. It is not just tech which can succeed. It is not just business which could succeed. It is about that cross-functional alignment, sales, marketing, engineering, design, everybody looking at product as a channel to go to the market, right? And it helps decentralize growth. Outward, it is extremely important to think about faster time to value. If you are able to build value methodically to increase customer lifetime value, it far fetches us in terms of growth. If you feel really plateaued, this is not fetching in, the kind of experimentation culture you have established as a foundation will let you explore newer growth opportunities. Tying back, last but not least, is operationally efficient. It will allow you to spend in more time on reducing your customer acquisition costs and operational costs over investing, in the product, and hence really acquiring growth. With that, I would quickly jump into the ping pong FAQ, but having looked at time, I think we will leave this ping pong FAQ and really leave you all with or open the floor for questions so that we could have more a conversation and talk about these experiences. If that's okay, Sabrina, I just kept a watch on time.
Amazing. I love the idea of the ping pong FAQ. I hadn't heard this, but this feels like really active and energetic. So we have one question here that Kai has asked, and he said the following. I love the idea of running rapid experimentations to get closer to customers. For story number 3, can you shed some light on what types of experiments were run? So for example, I don't know, A/B testing, before and after benchmarking, usability testing. Yeah, what did you do there, Madhu?
Yeah. So for lack of awareness, so some of the experiments that we have here that, broadly under different themes were, we had to kind of look at sending in personalized messages to trigger user activation, right? Now, this experiment probably was received as a cold call message from the partners in the ecosystem, from the businesses in the ecosystem. There was no signal of user activation. Second, we've run some heavily sales insight-driven marketing, where it was more like a recommendation. So, hey, you were selling in the last couple of months, your sales are dropping. And so, hey, why don't you run this kind of campaigns, right? So we introduced at multiple touch points, we try to introduce the touch point to go ahead and use this product. But what we have seen is 0.5% increase in the bookings made overall. I wouldn't say this was a failure, but then we were, navigating to success somewhere, but not seen a promising success yet. Then we said there is a huge wait time and training time to start, even small. So if we have to even leverage and, book a particular kind of a service, we understand that there's a lot of legal approvals that needed to happen. There's some kind of onboarding friction that the businesses were experiencing when running this platform. So there we said, there would be an automatic, we brought in automatic onboarding related capabilities to reduce this friction, right? In terms of validating the onboarding process for a lot of these users. Now that has resulted in 3x growth in service bookings. And the last one here was about redesigning the entire booking process itself. Booking one service was very different than booking another service. So there was this lack of consistency in terms of, how do I really understand this service versus, understand another different service. So we brought in really consistency. We said, we'll simplify the overall number of steps, try to see how the users would start adopting this process. So looking at running these different experiments, that's how we resulted in almost 7x growth in our service bookings.
Mm-hmm. So what I heard a little bit, Madhu, is that you really ran those experiments for real in the wild, where people would normally interact
Yes.
with this part of the product or service. And I would guess you use things like web analytics data that captured the checkout process, where
yes.
Where you were able to get those insights around how one version versus the other one did better in the end.
Absolutely, Sabrina. We've relied heavily on that.